everything has not been done. And let me illustrate that with a little example. In your home, you have a refrigerator, maybe a freezer, and a cupboard. If you only have 3 or 4 things in those places, the number of recipes that you can come up with is limited. If you have 400 or 500 different spices or ingredients in your refrigerator, cupboard, or freezer, the number of things you can come up with becomes almost infinite. The frontiers of the unknown expand, and they expand geometrically. There are always possibilities. I'd like to start just by getting a photograph of one of my favorite paintings by probably my favorite artist, the Swiss artist Paul Klee, that lived in Germany during the Die Brücke der Blaureiter period. And this is one of his more famous paintings, The Twittering Machine. And it's sort of a nonsense machine. It doesn't do anything. And it's kind of humorous. It makes me smile. But after I looked at it for enough years, I saw it as a kind of metaphor on humankind's immobility. Which isn't to say that I think there's one universal human condition. I don't. I think all societies and all individuals within society have unique experience levels. One thing I believe in that has a serious import, I use humor sometimes as a foil to say something more serious. In my painting, as well as my drawings, I want a sense of energy, movement, and mystery. I want to, with the colors and forms I use in that manner, to convey a sense that life is continuous and that anything can happen. This is Mary Ann Trudges Ahead. I've done a whole series on Mary Ann. She's daring, she's bold, she isn't afraid of being the center of attention, and she doesn't give a darn what other people think. She's the ultimate liberated woman, and all people should be liberated. What's right for people is what's right for them, and it really doesn't matter whether they understand or approve or not. This one is both frivolous and serious. I think this is just a sort of a thumbnail sketch that I developed, but I think it's good enough that it will hold up for a large drawing. I don't see having to revise it. And I pretty much got the colors in my mind already for these. I was perhaps influenced by a manifesto Gottlieb and Rothko came out with, two of the main abstract expressionists during the 50s and early 50s. Rothko said, for art to be taken seriously, the subject has to be tragic and timeless. And it took me a long while to say, well, you know, maybe into each life a little rain does fall, but all life doesn't have to be a disaster. It's partially how we make it sometimes, unless we're caught in the middle of a terrible war or something. So anyway, that's one of the earlier ones, or something I did maybe 20 years ago or 15. The last 15 years, I've become much more lighthearted. This is Bridge Takeover. The world was meant to be shared, I think, between all forms of life and not just dominated by humans. I heard something on the news a while back that 50 years from now, all the individual demarcations for cities on the East Coast going 50 miles inward would be obliterated, be all one large city. The thought of that many people at one time, God, I'm glad I didn't go to New York. It's hard to get away and have a little piece of quiet and do some clear thinking, in Des Moines sometimes if you get busy. But conditions like that, it strikes me as sort of a circus environment.
It's busy, busy.
just before my show at the Moberg Gallery in 2010, I asked Jeff Fleming, the Art Center director, if he would consider taking the artistic documentation. I'd been saving things and just storing them in boxes. It occurred to me that once an artist dies, if no one knows what he's done and no one knows how to contact the collectors that have bought his work, then it's virtually impossible to mount a show of his work. I compiled all this information from various boxes, condensed it, and I'm at the Art Center Library today, and Diane Collette has graciously opened the library for me so I could add a couple of new things. And again, it had been compiled over 35 years, and most of the works that have been documented in terms of photographs or slides, in fact practically all of them, have been sold. One of my favorite movies of all time showed in Des Moines nearly 40 years ago. The heroine was Meryl Streep. She generally played more serious roles then than she does now. And the movie was called Out of Africa. And she had experienced a number of personal misfortunes, which she eventually triumphs over. And as she describes these experiences to a friend, she said, perhaps God made the world round so we couldn't see too far down the road. And I think that's a good metaphor for life.